Borussia Dortmund. Manchester City FC.
Reina. It was helped away by his own man and back in again, and Bellingham! Joao Cancelo. Now to Bruyne. On to Stones. Stones hits it! Finally, they've broken Dortmund down. Joao Cancelo. Oh, that's a great goal. Oh, it had to be.
And the moment he scored a goal, I thought, oh, yeah, okay.
It had to be. It's an extraordinary finish from an extraordinary player.
Welcome to Matchday Live, another big game in the Champions League for the Blues this evening. Welcome, thank you so much for joining us. Now, Borussia Dortmund have won just one of their 5 UEFA Champions League matches against City. That was a 1-0 home win back in 2012-2013. While City have won their last 3 Champions League games against Borussia Dortmund, winning every game 2-1. Now, no side has ever beaten another by the same score in 4 consecutive games in the Champions League. Now, we've won 14 of our last 16 Champions League matches against German teams, but we did lose our last away game 2-1 against RB Leipzig. City have now won 16 games against German opponents in this competition, which is 6 more than against any other nation. Now, the team has arrived. You can see them there on the pitch, taking a little look around, and that is, of course, Riyad Mahrez and Calvin Phillips. Welcome to Matchday Live. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's Champions League game against Borussia Dortmund. I'm Natalie Pike, and I am joined in our studio tonight by 3 very special guests. I can tell you it's going to be a great show tonight because we do have returning Nedum Onuoha. We were all slightly worried after he walked off in the last show if he would be back. And he has returned. Thank you for coming back. Are we friends?
No, but it's okay.
We're not friends, but he is back. that.
Yeah, we're professional. We're professional. That's what you get. Yeah.
He's professional. Okay. We're also joined for the very first time by former Manchester City and England goalkeeper is Karen Bardsley. Thank you for joining us on Matchday Live.
It's my pleasure. I hope I don't have to walk off. I don't know.
And Karen obviously spoke to Steven before they arrived today, and they worked out what they were both wearing today.
I mean, it was awkward. He was going to have to change first, but we went for it.
I went for the hoodie option.
Yeah.
They're slightly different, so it really does look like you've planned this together.
I mean, we've got Nat here wearing Dortmund colours. I mean, come on, what are you doing?
I know. So we are joined by, and he's going to get in trouble tonight, I can tell it is Steven McInerney, fresh off having a baby, or your wife indeed.
That's a miracle.
It's a miracle. Well, it's a miracle. He's just had a baby, but he's here.
A little 7-day-old, probably right now actually, he's born at 7 o'clock. So.
And what's his name?
Ruben. Genuinely Ruben. Do you know why it's called Ruben? Because I was going through the City players' names for a laugh, and my wife was like, "Oh, I like Ruben." I went, "I can't do it. It's too on the nose, really." And she's like, "But Ruben's really nice," and it's stuck. So that's 4 months ago, and he's here. And it was a tough week because he was a bit poorly, but he's come for him when he's back at home, and I'm exhausted, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy and so relieved. And this is nice actually. I needed this. I needed to get out of the house and be here and see some friendly faces and Nedum's, of course.
Welcome to the world, Ruben McInerney. We are very, very delighted to have you as our next baby blue. Welcome to the family. Right, the team news is out. The all-important starting 11 for tonight's Champions League. So here we go. So it is Ortega in goal, and then it's Diaz, Stones, Ake, Cancelo, Gundogan, Rodri, Foden, Mahrez, Alvarez and Haaland. So that is your starting 11 for tonight's game. Your subs bench is Ederson, Carson, Grealish, Laporte, De Bruyne, Silva, Akanji, Palmer, Rico Lewis and Wilson Esbrand. That is your subs bench for today's Champions League game as City take on Borussia Dortmund. So we're going to get the my guests' immediate impressions of that starting 11. So lots of changes, Nedum. I got to 5 in my head, 6, 7. I think it's either 6 or 7 from the game that played, the team that played against Brighton. What do you think? Yeah, it is a lot of changes, but the quality's still there, isn't it? You know, as you look through the team from defence, midfield, attack, it's a slightly different look to what we're used to. But there's so much talent there, and at the end of the day, they've afforded themselves the opportunity because they have qualified, you know. And it's not to say this isn't their first choice 11, but you know, every time you see Kevin De Bruyne on the bench, it makes you feel
weird.
You feel it looks weird. It's like that. You shouldn't even know what any bench feels like anywhere. But
he's perfectly stood up.
Yeah, literally. So he's it's a very good City side. I'm interested to see how some of the sort of partnerships come along, and hopefully they go out there and get the result for the team today. Karen, do you think that, as Nedum says, we have already qualified? Although, you know, if we win the game tonight, we'll finish top of the group. But Dortmund have not yet qualified, so they need to get something out of tonight. The fact that we've already qualified, do you think that's allowed Pep the advantage of being able to rotate tonight? I think that would have definitely played a part in his decision making. But I think there's so many other permutations that he could use as well, and to his advantage really, about rotating the squad, about getting minutes in the legs. Just different match experience, like growing into the methodology and understanding it in so many different ways. There's so many things that go on in Pep's head, and trying to understand, what it is, the intricacies and the moments in the game that require those types of decisions. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to play a very talented side that, could potentially hurt you in a one-off game, but the situation allows for some freedom as well. So I think it's a great opportunity. So looking at the first sort of change there in the goalkeeper position, Ederson is on the bench, Stefan Ortega comes in, Steven. Obviously, he's got Bundesliga experience. He's come from the Bundesliga. What do you make of his starting tonight? I mean, it's been a while since you saw him, but he's a quality keeper, and look, Pep understands more than most, I would say, the value of a happy squad. You've got to keep everyone eager, you've got to keep everyone fresh, and it'd almost be naive not to give Ortega football at some point, because football is such a fickle and brutal sport that Ederson could become an injury at the weekend. So yeah, you have to give him play, give him game time, and what better opportunity then in this Champions League when things are looking a little bit more settled than most would have expected, and of course against a Dortmund side that he'd be very familiar with. So Ortega is a quality keeper. He seems very likeable. I remember all his interviews as well when he signed. And even though we haven't seen loads of him on the pitch for City, he seems to be a very talented, very well-respected player. And he's going to pick up and he'll be absolutely fine because he's got the quality to play for Manchester City in the first place. So it'll be great.
Yeah, so sitting directly ahead of him this evening, Nedum, will be Diaz, Stones, Ake and Cancelo. So
it's not bad, that, you know.
It's all right.
It's not bad, you know.
Happy with that?
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. So that's the Portuguese international, England international, Dutch international, and who did I miss out?
Diaz, oh, you said Portuguese.
Oh, 2 Portuguese internationals. Sorry, my bad. 2 Portuguese
Yes.
internationals with ambitions of winning the World Cup next month, but we don't need to get into that. But yeah, it's a good back four. It's good to see John Stones back. You know, he had his injury, I think, whilst he was away with England. But to have him back in there now, and obviously he's the Dortmund slayer with finishes like the one we've been seeing on the screen here.
Look at that.
Well, you know, keeping it in thought, and there's no way he's kicking the ball towards me.
I love that.
But yeah, it's good to see him back. I think for me, he's one of the best defenders here now and has been for the past few years. So for him to be sort of getting a taste of being back on the field is fantastic. And best of all, I think even though they've rotated, you're playing against Dortmund in Gelsenkirchen, like that's a very, very tough test. But one that, you know, you can. These are the sort of moments where you live for as a footballer, like those big games in those iconic stadiums, iconic arenas.
Oh my God.
Like even before the game, you saw Mahrez out there with his phone, sort of like recording it because, like, this is Dortmund. What an experience this is.
And Mahrez is a superstar. He's
literally.
You know, and even he's like, wow, this is incredible. If you can't be up for this, you can't be up for anything, really.
Yeah, I do feel like I just need to just tell everybody as well, it was joked about before, this is the Manchester City training spot. I have not come
allegedly
part of the yellow wall this evening.
Okay.
It does have a badge on it.
Yeah,
Promise
sure.
you, I really wasn't thinking
Yeah,
well,
no,
if the
that's
house
fine,
wasn't.
There's no coordination there, was there? Come on.
I wish
Look at these two here, you know, what's going on? You're being Karen here.
Some people get free things, some people don't. So
I actually
you
bought
figure
this.
out, audience, figure out for
I
yourself.
bought this out my own
Audience,
money,
figure
yeah.
out for yourself what's going on here. But yeah.
Some people put more effort into, obviously, what they're doing. I've got a brilliant stat for you all to bring it back to the game. So no fullback has been involved in more sequences of play that have ended in shots or goals. 29 shots, 5 goals. The Manchester City's Joao Cancelo in the Champions League this season. Cancelo has already made 3 assists this season in 4 games, equaling his season best, which was 3 in 9 last year. So Cancelo's on fire in the Champions League.
That Cancelo culture. He's just a wonderful player. I just love Joao Cancelo. I think he's joyous and there's everything that you want in a footballer, really. You know, he plays to create. He plays to do things that he shouldn't probably do in his role. And I love that. He's an adventurous risk taker, and those are the kind of players that you do want to watch. I can imagine there'd be young kids, you know, around the world and playing football in parks trying to copy him. And but I mean, he's really obviously adapted to this role. I mean, look at the quality of those passes. That's just silly. It's absolutely silly.
That's hilarious. You know what? Just before he put that cross in, he's taking those touches, and there should be 2 passes that are on. There's one to his left and one straight ahead of him.
So he makes one that no one's seen at all.
Yeah, there should be no outside of the foot cross to the back post for the big fella. But
it's joyous, though, isn't it? It's that. I mean, it's wonderful. It's what you want to see.
I think that's one of the reasons, like, why this team is so exciting. And you know, when teams match up and they face a team like Man City, you think, right, okay, they're going to be predictable. They're going to be, you know, doing this in possession. They're going to move here, move here, move here, and then they go and do something like that. How you can't defend against that?
It is predictable, but predictably brilliant. You know? That's the thing, is like, you know, it's going to be something special, and the fact that it's so frequent for people like Cancelo or KDB or Phil, it's just it's a blessing.
Yeah, for me, the only 2 players on the field who really aren't likely to get a ton of assists will be the 2 centre backs. But aside from that, everybody else is kind of open for it. So
including Edison.
That's literally why I said it. So then when you're playing against that, like historically, you'd know who the main threats are for a team. So when someone's got the ball, it's like, we're okay. You know, I felt that myself. But anyway, it's like, you're okay. But when Cancelo's got it, it's like, something's going on here. Like, we looked at John Stones' goal just a few weeks ago. That's a great strike in itself. And the goalkeeper's got it from a goal kick. You're like panicking. Maybe something's going to happen here. Like, they're a fantastic team, and you know, this is why they kill people in so many different ways.
Was Stones playing right back that night?
He was
indeed.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, but you know, just step forward.
I like this idea. Yes.
Impact.
Yes. Yeah. In terms of that assist by Mahrez, by Cancelo, apologies. It looks insane. As soon as you see it, I say, wow. From a technical point of view, how difficult is it?
Okay, so let me do the breakdown. Firstly, as a player, it's very hard to know.
How many times did you do it?
Like that for a cross? Never, even to this day. But it's the position of the ball. Like, if the ball's there, it should go to Bernardo Silva or Phil Foden. It shouldn't come in like that. That's not what it's set up to do. Like, for where it is, it should be a left foot pass short or a right foot pass short. But he positions himself there. And craziest thing still, players that try and do that, you end up kicking the ground, you hurt your ankle, you catch it with the wrong side of your foot, curls the other way.
This is memory, isn't it?
Yeah, these are flashbacks.
But to put it in the exact right spot like that, that's an incredible cross if he was using his right foot from the other side. You know what I mean? Like, that's a beautiful ball. It's perfect.
I mean, think about like the power it takes to get behind that. Not only does the technique have to be correct, like he's got almost zero backlift. He's put some disguise on it, so to be able to get the spin on it to kind of curl away from the keeper as well, and right in the path of an oncoming, ninja kick from Haaland. It's just amazing.
That's one of those goals where there's literally nothing wrong defensively.
No.
There's nothing wrong. It's just an incredible, unpredictable, mercurial pass, and this guy who's 6'5", he somehow manages to float like Michael Jordan.
You know what it'd be? In looking back at it, I was thinking, if I was defending for Dortmund, what would I say? You would probably say to, I think it was Chan that was like the nearest player to Cancelo. You say, you need to go and put more pressure on him. But Cancelo didn't make it seem like he was going to do anything.
No, he was just stood there with the ball.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just coming forward, nice and easy. And next thing, it's like an incredible ball. And then someone's got his foot 6'5" up in the air somehow.
But I also love the fact that, like Haaland's like, I'm going to get my foot on this. Like, not my head, nothing like that. I'm just going to do whatever I can.
It's silly.
It's amazing. What a guy.
I love goals like that. They stick in your mind forever, don't they? You'll remember that goal in 30 years' time still. Because it's just different and it's fun and it's creative and it's football, basically.
Absolutely, and there was the sense in that game as well that even though it was getting late on that we were going to find a goal, but when you have players like Joao Cancelo and Erling Haaland on the pitch. In terms of that back four tonight, who wants to try and predict who's on the right and who's on the left? Anybody?
Stones and Cancelo, isn't it? I think so. I mean, it could be Ake over the left with Cancelo at the right, but you would guess it would be that. Stones' success there, obviously, in the previous fixture, and Cancelo's success there in the previous fixture. I think it makes sense to carry on.
It's obviously more than likely to be wrong, but I think it's Stones on the right, not really bombing forward, with Mahrez also on the right, which would be the guy to provide the most width. Whereas on the other side, you could maybe have Cancelo pushing further forward, and as a consequence, Alvarez coming a bit more inside. So the width might come from, as I say, Riyad Mahrez and Cancelo. That's my take anyway.
I don't know. I feel like Ake might be on the left.
Okay.
Yeah. So no particular reason, but some previous matches.
It's not bad when we don't have a clue. We've literally watched hundreds of games. I don't know.
Like the permutations are endless, aren't they? Really. I mean, this team is so talented and it is so versatile. Anyone could play anywhere.
And to talk about what can happen when you're in the opposition dressing room, they do like to sort of see the team sheet, then write it up on a wall. Like if we're sitting here who watch City all the time, we don't really have a clue. Like for the opposition, what are they going to write up on the wall? It's like. I think...
Question marks.
Yeah, Ake could be here or here, and then this guy could be here. So then, it makes for a fun game for sure.
So essentially, what we've all agreed on is that Ruben Diaz is playing centre-back.
Yeah. Well...
And the other three could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's what we think, but literally, do we know?
He's up front a lot.
Yeah, do you know? That's the thing, do you know?
Alvarez at right back.
Exactly, you just don't know.
Yeah, well... That is the excellent insight you get from
You're welcome. Listen, this is what you're here for, yeah? Yeah, no idea. Yeah.
I'm sure someone out there agrees with us.
We'll figure
somewhere.
out in due time. Yeah.
It is, by now, it's always my favourite thing. Where are people playing? Yeah. So thank you, as always, for watching us this evening. If you would like to ask our guests any questions, you can do by using our normal WhatsApp number that we always use. So please feel free. Right, it is +44 753 718 6538. That is our WhatsApp number. You can ask any of our guests questions. You can ask Stephen about fatherhood. You can ask Karen about anything because it's her first time on. And you can take the mick out of Nedum and we can see if we can get him to walk off again.
It's the in thing, isn't it?
It is the
all the rage
at the moment. We should take a poll and try to get Nedum some City kit, to be honest.
Listen, I know my place, trust me. I know my place.
We love you.
Yeah, allegedly.
We love you, really.
Allegedly, yeah.
Oh, funny.
So thank you so much for joining us. I just want to quickly just make sure I move my hair out of the way to flash that this absolutely 100% is a Manchester City badge, as I'm about to go to the Borussia Dortmund team news. Okay, so your starting 11 for Dortmund this evening is Kerbal, and then it is Scholterbeck, Reina, Hazard, Hummels, Moukoko, Brandt, Bellingham, Can, Schul and Adeyemi. That is your starting 11 for Dortmund this evening. So you can see the Dortmund team are arriving there. A big game for them this evening as they haven't yet qualified. They do need to try and get a result from this game to ensure their qualification to the next round. So, Nedum, in terms of you, from seeing the team tonight, from seeing them play against City a few weeks ago, who are you most nervous about? Who do we need to keep an eye on?
Most nervous about? I think them playing at home is always going to be a tough tie anyway. But I think, given where we are in terms of the season, it's eyes on Jude Bellingham, isn't it? There's a big clamour at the moment for him to be, say, starting for England. Apparently, there's a lot of desire for people to bring him over to England as well, and he's such a good player. I can remember when they said his number had been retired at Birmingham City, and I thought this was like one of the wildest
Everybody
things in
laughed,
the history
didn't they?
of the world. And I get it.
I think he might still be, being honest.
I don't know, man. He's all right, He's all right. But then, as well as that, it's like seeing Gio Reyna. I played with his dad, so to be watching his son and to know that I'm still of an age where I could, in theory, still be playing. Like,
that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, that's stuff to see. I think I must have seen him when he was here. Like, I literally must have seen his son.
He probably would have been, yeah. He would have been around the campus.
But he's not a bad player. But I think it's a good side and it's an attacking side. And even to link to someone else, I played against Mats Hummels in the under-21 Euros in 2009. Yet he's still playing, and I'm sitting here in blue with no Man City gear on. But
I think you won there, to be honest.
What's that?
You're here. You won, sir.
No. Do you know what? They actually won that final 4-0, and he went on to win, I think, a World Cup as well. So I think realistically he won.
He's done okay.
Yeah. Overall, I think he won, but we're here anyway.
So in terms of Jude Bellingham, he has become the third teenager to score in 4 consecutive Champions League appearances. The last person to do it was Erling Haaland, and that is Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe. So it's not bad company to be in that.
It's not bad, yeah.
Are you keeping an eye on him in terms of the World Cup as well, Stephen?
Yeah, I think he's absolutely quality footballer, and if you're watching Pep, get it done. So I personally would love him at Man City. I think he's wonderful. I think he's probably inevitably going to end up in the Premier League at some point. He's just a wonderful footballer, and to be as good as he is at this age already. And I think Pep, the one quote I did see away from fatherhood, I did see Pep talking about how impressive it is to be 19 years old and be a leader for the team. Because not many people are that. Many people at that age could be fantastic footballers, but to be the leader and the heartbeat of the team as well, for a Champions League quality team, that takes a special kind of temperament. Bellingham has that. I mean, fantastic, and he's done it against us a couple of times as well. I think he scored twice against us now, hasn't he? He's proven it time and time again that he rises to games like this, and absolutely paying attention to him. But it's not just him as well. There's the latest wonder kid, Moukoko. He's a really fantastic young player, and then you got Eden's brother, Foden. He's a really good footballer, Foden Hazard, and of course Gio Reyna. It's just a very talented team. Of course, they're lacking, Akanji's moved on and Haaland, but it's still, plenty of talent, and that yellow wall is going to be, such a boost for them.
Moukoko's 17 years old.
Yeah.
He's getting a reputation as one of the best forwards in the world, or certainly one of the best young forwards in the world. A quote that really stood out to me, Karen, was that Erling Haaland said that at 15, Moukoko was better than he was.
Oh, that's terrifying.
At 15, right?
Yeah.
But again, another one that every Premier League team's going to have their eyes on, or will do already.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got the opportunity to watch some of their games, and I think in the lead up to this fixture, they had like a really heavy, congested schedule, similar to obviously the Premier League, and they lost a couple games. I think it was Union Berlin. You're gonna have to correct me on the pronunciation there, but other than that, they played, I think. Who was it? Stuttgart just before, and it ended up being 5-0, and like Bellingham, Moukoko, like Reyna, they were just all flying on all cylinders. So I think there's some really, really exciting talent. But yeah, I'm really excited about Bellingham, and some of the things that have come out lately about his mentality is like really, really exciting. He's just, to your point, he's just taking games by the scruff of the neck. He's taking on that leadership role, and he'd be a really exciting player to see in the Premier League. But I think his path has been one that's really, helped him become the player he is, taking the route to go to Germany and get those minutes. So I think that's a real valuable learning for any young footballer.
Yeah, it seems like a really brave decision as well to have done it so young, but clearly, the development that he's had at Dortmund, it's really paying off for him.
Absolutely. It's a big move. I mean, when you're pretty comfortable, you're around your friends and family, you kind of know what to expect day to day, and then you take a chance and you go and back yourself and look at him and the likes of Jadon Sancho, who came through the City academy and took his opportunity at Dortmund. It's pretty cool to see such young talent getting the opportunity.
Yeah. So Youssef Moukoko, 17, has come through the Dortmund academy as well. So big respect to them for the amount of youth players that they are bringing through. Karen mentioned there that they played Stuttgart at the weekend. They won 5-0. They're on a good run of form at the minute. Obviously, they played us a couple of weeks ago, took the lead in that game, but we came back. They need a result in this game to get qualification sealed, Nedum. So Are you expecting them to come all guns blazing for us?
To be honest, I think I expect that from any team playing at home in the Champions League. So whether or not they need a result or not, I think they would have been very much on the front foot anyway. Maybe there's that added aspect of they want to finish top of the group. Maybe there's that added aspect as well, because Man City is such a big draw in world football that a win against them can really be a significant one for their season. So I think for them, like for their fans, like it's a great victory, because I'm sure they think they can do well in the Champions League, but they'll probably see where people say City the favourites or one of the top 3, top 4 teams for it. So it's a big win. It's a big momentum, it's like morale boosting type of victory if they do get it. So I think they'll be aiming to do that, and with the sort of young legs that they have in there, they're going to try and definitely make it as hard as possible. Yeah, it should be a tough game, but it's the Champions League. Like, if you travel around Europe expecting easy games, like, where do you think you are?
In terms of the game that we played a couple of weeks ago, do you think they'll have learned anything, Stephen, that they'll try and change, or anything they'll do different? Anything they learned from us that day to try and get us?
Dortmund, I guess Man City are quite open book, really. And they're so everyone knows what how Man City play, but broadly it's going to be the same. You know what you're going to get from City, but it's the personnel that's so different now. So you're getting a different kettle of fish from Man City this time. Of course, Alvarez in particular being involved. Kanji, for example, who played excellently last time. I suspect they'll probably look at City's change systems. It might be a slightly changed system. I think they'll probably try and use the early intensity, of the fan base, and really trying to just kind of press over on any potential looseness and rustiness from a changed 11, because a lot of City players have come into the team. But other than that, they'll play how Dortmund play. Dortmund have they always do the same thing. They're aggressive side. They play on the counter attack and they have a lot of pace. And I suspect the same thing really. But they'll just try and get that early goal, because it can be crucial. And obviously we saw Liverpool using the crowd quite well against us recently, unfortunately. And I think they'll probably look at that as a similar template.
So Dortmund have found the back of the net in each of their last 13 home games in the Champions League. That is since a 0-0 draw against Barcelona back in September 2019. So they have scored in each of their last 13 home games in the Champions League. So defensively, we are going to have to really be sharp tonight, Karen.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great points about, what we can probably expect from Dortmund. But I think, they will have probably looked at the most recent performance against Brighton and maybe unpicked how they kind of managed the press and how they managed to fill the passing lanes and kind of make City's play a bit more predictable until it wasn't. Yeah. And it was really hard, for City to get on the ball with the way that Brighton kind of man-marked across the pitch, So I think we can maybe expect an adaptation of that in Dortmund's press, but I think also they're a massive counter-attacking team, and the way that City play are very expansive. So I think, if we're not tidy enough on the ball, we could potentially get punished. And they're a quick team. They're an energetic team. With some of the changes, obviously with Royce not being involved as he was in the previous game, we could see an addition again of speed and energy and enthusiasm that could potentially be really difficult to handle.
Thank you. So that is the Dortmund team news for today's game. There is another game in our group that is currently taking place, and it is Sevilla 1, Copenhagen 0. In terms of the permutations in our group, Sevilla need to win to still have a chance of qualifying for the round of 16. So we'll keep you updated on that score. And a little bit later, we will go over all the permutations. I think that's the right word, permutations, something like that for today's game. So we're also going to talk about Brighton a little bit later on as well, have a little look over that game as well. And if you do have any questions coming that you'd like to ask any of our guests, do get them coming in and I will ask as many as I possibly can. Now, we've told you all we know about Dortmund, so we thought we might just get in an expert as well. Someone with a bit more inside knowledge on tonight's opponent. So Sasha Stat is a sports journalist and podcaster for a Dortmund newspaper, and we've been able to speak to him on the ground in Germany ahead of tonight's game.
I think he'll probably make earlier substitutions depending on how the game will go, because I think in the first leg it was obvious that Manchester City was dominating the game for most parts of the game actually, and in the end the pressure was mounting. They were bringing on some really good subs, quality subs actually, and Dortmund doesn't have a deep bench, so maybe today is a possibility to make some earlier subs.
Fantastic. And obviously Jude Bellingham, he's scored twice in the past 3 games against City. So what makes him such a threat?
I think first of all, he's in a great shape right now. He's become a leader of the team and he knows it. Actually, he wore the captain's armband lately, so I think that makes sure or shows him that he's a great player, or he's on the rise here when it comes to the team and the locker room actually. I think he has a great feel for the game, and that's actually why he's scoring so much lately.
And with him being so young, what do you think we can expect from him moving forward?
Well, that's a tough question, because if you look at the players who've left Borussia Dortmund in the past joining Premier League teams, it's always been difficult. For example, Jadon Sancho at Manchester United is not doing as good as he did in Dortmund before. But I think Bellingham, he's a different character and personality, so I expect him to move to a bigger club in the near future, not next summer, but maybe the summer of 24, and I expect him to become a world-class player.
Tonight, City have 40 different nationalities in the away end. So what do you think that says about the Champions League and about the 2 teams?
I think, first of all, that's quite impressive because that's a lot of people coming from different countries to watch the game, and I think it says a lot about the importance of the game. And obviously, people after the pandemic want to be in the stadium again, because we were doubting that they would come back, but the stadium has probably been sold out all of the matches after. So I think it shows that they really have the feeling, or they didn't lose the feeling for the game, and I think tonight will be a special game, so it's obvious that they want to be here.
What do you think makes this game so special in particular?
I think first of all, Borussia Dortmund needs at least 1 point to make it to the next stage. Then it's about who will finish first in the group. I think Man City is still the favorite to win the game, and I think we see a lot of quality players tonight, so that's why it's an important and good match to watch.
And talking of the fans, what do you think the Yellow Wall has in store for us tonight?
I'm not sure, actually. I haven't heard anything. Sometimes they don't even talk about it before, so that might be a big surprise, but I'm sure they will be loud and screaming for the whole 90 minutes.
And finally, can I get a prediction from yourself about how the game will go tonight?
I tend to be optimistic, so I think it will end in a draw, which will be a good result for both teams.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was Sascha Staat. He is a German journalist who works on Dortmund, giving you all the inside info there. And a big shout out to all of the Blues that have travelled to Dortmund for the game this evening. We know that you've travelled not just from Manchester, but around the world to be there. And we chatted to a couple that have travelled from Prague to support their Manchester City in Dortmund.
OK, guys, can you start off by telling me your name and where you've travelled from today?
My name is Willem. My wife Ksenia. We come from Prague, Czech Republic.
Brilliant. And did you know that there are 40 nationalities here today in the away end supporting City? What are you most looking forward to today?
I'm looking forward to the vibe, because I've never been to the match before. We only watched it on the TV, and that's it. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Which player are you most looking forward to seeing?
All of them right now, because it's KDB, it's Phil, it's Haaland, of course, Rodri, Diaz. All of them are best of the best.
So what makes tonight so special for you that you've travelled all this way?
So special, first time we together on the football, first time for her, and first time to see Haaland.
Perfect. And what are your predictions for tonight?
What
are your predictions?
Predictions? Will be a tough game, but I hope we will win. Thank you.
I love that. Blues travelling from all around the world to support City this evening. I like to think that we're all one big, happy, most of the time, family here at Matchday Live. And we have just been told that our newest family member, Nedum McInerney, is watching the show this evening. 7 days old, watching.
She sent me a photo, literally, on a phone.
Who's she, sorry?
Yeah. My wife. And I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. I just want to say, if there's any doubt that the female of the species is more deadly than the male, she's an absolute beast, honestly. I've got Nicola McInerney. Thank you for being the best person in the world. Genuinely, I didn't think I could love her more, but I found a new way, and she's created the most beautiful little guy, and what she went through for our family, I guess, now is, so thank you to my wife for being the best person I've ever met in my life, and even more so after last week.
Congratulations, Nicola, and welcome, Ruben, watching Matchday Live. 7 days old. I think he's probably the youngest viewer we've ever had. If you have had a younger viewer than Ruben, do let us know. We would love to know. Do get your questions in for our guests. And as part of our big happy family here, we want to say a big happy birthday to one of our very own, because it is our Sean Wright Phillips's birthday. I think he's 41.
41, is that what he is? Happy birthday, Righty, mate.
Johnny, right.
Happy birthday.
That makes me feel
aging
old.
really well, pal. Keep it up. I'm delighted with that. He's so old. I'm seeing him in a couple of weeks. He's so old. He's so old. I love this.
Old man Johnny.
Absolutely live for this. Happy birthday, Sean.
He really is one of our own as well, isn't he, Stephen?
I'm obsessed with him. Shawnee was one of my first City heroes. You know, he was kinky and all that, and Uwe. But I remember genuinely the pride that I felt watching him pull on an England shirt. And obviously, I think he came on alongside Crouch. Actually, wasn't it? It was that famous shot of those two there. Then he scored as well, didn't he? Right. Bottom corner. I felt pride, the genuine pride, because obviously back then we didn't have that many internationals in the team. And I remember feeling pride when he got called up for England under the 21s as well. So I genuinely remember
it's not my birthday. Don't worry about me for now.
But it wasn't as impressive when he called up for England, though, to be fair. So, no, but I love Shawnee. He was a spectacular player. And when he came back as well and joined after he's moved to Chelsea, he was just dancing in the streets, man. What a guy, what a player.
Sean Wright is one of the most important players in the history of Man City football.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely
because
agree. Saved us.
From what he did at Maynard, for what he was doing at the City of Manchester, as it was called at the time, and the way that we were so academy-led, he was the person who we all wanted to be like. And lo and behold, probably 10, 15 of us made it in off the back of him. And then we are where we are here today. So big shout to the old man. That's all
I love that.
The old man, he's 41. Oh, goodness. When's your birthday, by the way? We don't want to forget it.
Just next month.
Next month. How old are you going to be?
36.
30. Oh, a sprightly 36.
Wow, by comparison, I'm pretty young. Just to say that, yeah.
Karen, when you joined...
Don't talk to me about
that. Yeah, she's old. I've got another one. There's another one.
I am saying nothing. When you joined Manchester City, how do you end up finding out about these sort of legendary players that we've had throughout the years? Or do you just end up sort of bumping into them, walking around and sort of realising when you see people going,
I am the legend, so...
Of course,
yes. No,
What an answer. What an answer.
Yes. How do people react to you? Yes.
No.
I love
I'm joking. It's pretty wild, like coming into an organization like this, you know, when there wasn't a lot of history around the women's team, and then kind of being like thrust into what's going on within the men's team and just understanding like who's coming in, who was here before. It's a really important part of being at Man City, is like embracing where we've come from and, you know, seeing where we've been. So I think, you know, it's great to hear you speak so fondly about, you know, Sean Wright Phillips, and like to have a little bit of experience, like watching him when I was a bit younger, and you know, like Dickoff and Goter and like these amazing players. You see them kind of in the academy, and you know, like plastered on the stadium. You know, obviously with Silva and company and the like. And it's a really cool thing to be able to see, and then now it's kind of making its way around the academy. It's just like really ingrained in the history of the club.
I wouldn't change it for the world, by the way. You know, people talk about Man City not being the most successful when younger. I wouldn't change it. I think it's who we are. I think it's special. I think it gives us a humility as City fans that some teams some of my best friends growing up were United fans, and they couldn't handle anything other than success when they lost it. And I love it. I think it changes you as a person.
It makes you appreciate what you've got, doesn't it? Because to your point, you never really had it.
As well, the club are very good at welcoming ex-players back.
I agree. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's across all generations. So that's whether you played for the club 50, 60 years ago, if you played for the club 5 years ago, and as a consequence, the history sort of follows the club around because everybody that's been part of the journey is there.
It can't exactly. It's no coincidence, in my opinion, that people like Sergio Aguero and David Silva stayed for as long as they did. There must be something at this club that is inherently likeable and welcoming. It's the weather. It's the weather. It's Manchester. It's Eastlands. But, but it does. That appreciation, that love, and respect. And like I've been watching academy games, and Paul Lake will be sat alongside me just randomly because he's walking around still at the campus, and that to me it helps define the culture at the club. But it makes players want to stay longer. And at the time, I don't think when we signed Aguero, people like that. I personally didn't think he'd be here for 10 years. Of course I didn't. He was a superstar, but he was here for a reason, and it wasn't just because we were very good at football. Because you can be very good at football in many places. He was here because of the people, the culture. That stuff matters to people, and it does. And look at. Yeah.
Well, there's community links, and the club is just formed around the community, and you can see, to your point, like. Not only are they welcomed in and welcomed back, but they're like integrated into the organisation from like a business perspective as well. Like Paul Lake still working for the club, and
even to mention one thing, because what you were saying made me realise. So when I spoke with Balotelli last year, he said his biggest regret in his career was that he didn't stay for longer. It
doesn't surprise me.
And that's somebody who people perceive to be like crazy and whatever. Like there was a feeling he had while he was here, which he regrets walking away from, and he never found that anywhere else.
There's a value in life of being comfortable where you're at and what you do and stuff like that. And I think you realise it as you get older, and like I think a lot of these young players who've left, they might look back and go, I should have stayed there a little bit longer, and like Alex Zinchenko is a good example of someone who stayed a little bit longer than he could have, and he'll forever now, regardless if he leaves to Arsenal, will be a Man City hero and a legend,
I love it. I love hearing it from you, but I love hearing it from these guys because we believe that as fans, but they know it as players. So it's a perfect chance for us just to remind you that there is an incredible documentary about our Sean Wright-Phillips. It's called City's Homegrown Hero, and it chronicles the story of honestly just one of our most popular players in the modern era. You can get that on City Plus and Recast. He is a 4-time winner of the club's Young Player of the Year. Legendary status, more than 200 appearances. The City Plus documentary provides a genuinely fascinating insight into the memorable career of the former City and England winger.
Wright-Phillips drifting in behind again, and onside, and on target again. An incredible return to Manchester City for Sean Wright-Phillips.
What makes an ex-player a club legend?
What makes an ex-player into a club legend? Gosh. What makes an ex-player a club legend?
An ex-player, a club legend.
That is a good question. That is a good question.
That's tough.
That's such a good question.
Phillips. Oh my word! Some final charge!
I think it comes down to their relationship with the fans.
Connection with the fans. You're popular with the fans because they appreciate what you did for them.
Those City fans cannot believe what they've just witnessed. Oh, what a stunning goal! It just gets better and better for Sean Wright-Phillips.
One of the things City fans value most is just working hard.
Always give his all for the shirt.
Giving everything every week.
Close control, awareness, pace, power, and this is 89, 90 minutes. He's run his heart out for 90 minutes.
Everyone's just going to look at success, but I don't see it that way.
It's not just about the success.
Joe and Wright-Phillips. It is the dream return. Welcome home.
Is that a decent answer, or yeah? Okay, right.
Yeah, Sean Wright-Phillips, City's homegrown hero. You can get that now on City Plus and Recast. So we are around about 37 minutes away from tonight's 8 p.m. kickoff, and you can see our players are making their way out now into the stadium to warm up on the pitch. There is Erling Haaland going out onto his former pitch, of course, for the first time since he joined us in the summer. If you're just joining us, we're going to give you a recap very shortly of the starting 11. Yeah, if you are just joining us, very, very welcome as well. Thank you very much. The players there walking out onto the pitch. So your starting 11 for tonight is Ortega, Diaz, Stones, Ake, Cancelo, Gundogan, Rodri, Foden, Mahrez, Alvarez and Haaland. That is your starting 11 for tonight's game. Yep, 37 minutes away from tonight's kickoff. I cannot wait. And of course, it's only been a few days since we last played. We took on Brighton in the Premier League on Saturday afternoon. Of course, coming out 3-1 winners in what was perhaps a slightly different game than we are generally used to. And kind of by that, I immediately mean, Stephen, because somebody had more possession than us. Brighton had more possession than us.
How dare they?
How dare they?
They are. Very good side and probably a very good preparation for this game. Yeah, that was... I kind of like it when we have games like that in general because there's nothing more that Pep loves than something to think about and process, and and there's many permutations from a game like that as well. I just had to get the word in for no reason. But like, I think it's good to be challenged every now and then. It's good for a team to step up and give you something a little. Essentially, it'll shake City a little bit, because they won't be used to that. And I think players of the quality and the pride, I guess, that Manchester City have. They won't like the fact that they didn't keep the ball more than their opposition, because that is basically their identity, and if that's who you are, and the team with significantly less, let's be honest, their resources than Manchester City and a lower standing in general in the table, you can challenge City that way and put them under pressure. I think that'll motivate them. I think they'll be really up for it, and I think Pep won't be happy with conceding the ball to a very good team from Italy, but I still don't think he'll be happy about it. So I'm expecting City to really try and stamp the possession authority on the game today, because I think they have to, and I think they've got a point to prove to an extent.
We're seeing here, Nedum, from the clips, just how high the Brighton were pressing us at the weekend, which, again, we don't often see. We've heard a lot since the game as well about their man-on-man, their one-on-one playing that they had against us. In terms of a technical kind of aspect, can you kind of explain to those of us that are not that gifted what the kind of difference was? So what did it mean, the fact that Brighton were pressing us more and playing sort of one-on-one in terms of what the other teams generally do?
So they weren't necessarily pressing for the duration of the game, but they were pressing at key moments when it was the right time to do so. And what they did really well overall, I thought, was the fact that they were man-to-man, but the person they left free was Ederson. So Ederson would be coming forward because he's got time and he's got space, but football's very, very difficult when you look around and nobody's free. At some point, somebody has to be free, like just somebody somewhere. So realistically, when you then play that pass, very quickly you saw that for Brighton, the press would then begin. And then before you know it, the person that thought he had an option now doesn't have an option. So it's almost like pass the bomb, as opposed to pass the ball, which City have been so good at in the past. And Brighton, as I say, they didn't go on all-out press all the time, but whenever they needed to, they did it. And then whenever someone, as I say, did receive the ball, your options are limited. But I thought from early doors in the game, what it was crying out for was the fact that they left 3v3 at the back, so you needed something longer. And I think Pep and the team sort of realised that, and that's when Ederson played that ball for Haaland. But realistically, like it's the best thing about it I can say for Brighton is the fact that it seems like it came out of nowhere. They made like a fundamental change in their approach, and City struggled in terms of dealing with it because it's so different. Like teams who watch that and say, "Oh, this is how you get at City," it's not really. Just Brighton were exceptional at that on the day, and that's a ridiculous ball.
It's not easy to do either.
Yes, let's go to the goalkeeper to tell us what we are seeing. Karen. How hard is it? Yes, explain this to us.
That's a disgrace. That's what it is.
It's just ridiculous. So, I mean,
it's silly.
Like with a guy like Ederson as well, I mean, not everyone's got that in their locker. You can't just hit like a shaped pass into a non-running, Haaland. Was he 6'5", and who was it that just bounced off him? Like,
6'3".
I'm not being funny, but it looks like he's just thrown a rag doll like off to the side there. And the timing of the run from Haaland is fantastic, but the vision to see the pass and the shape to put it on it from Ederson is just unbelievable. And I'm like, there's not many people that can shape the pass, but then also like have the understanding of and the technique to kind of land it in the path as he did as well. You'd either overhit it or you'd underhit it. There's so many different considerations to make when you're going to hit that pass, but he makes it look so easy.
And what I would say as well, in terms of teams playing against City or some teams who arrive as an underdog, one of the worst things you can do is basically play in a way which allows the team to get into their rhythm. And for Brighton, they didn't do that. So I think even as the game progressed and City were dealing with it in a better fashion, they still didn't have the sort of fallback memory of the last 30 minutes moving the ball well.
No.
Because for Brighton, as I say, they upset them at the start. City had to make a tweak, which they didn't really want to do, but then they weren't brilliant at that either. The Haaland goal was probably the only chance that came from that. So it's not like it was an obvious ploy they could do as well. So there were times where Edison might try and dink it into Haaland, but City, again, are not really built in that particular moment to have people come underneath and try and get a second ball. So the thing that feels obvious, they're still not prepared for. So that's why you have to give a ton of credit to Brighton.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as well, they had the confidence to be able to move the ball around.
That technique, the technique of the press, I should say, is not easy to do either, to have the discipline over that course of time to essentially, keep a certain distance to make it look like the passing lanes are full. So you remove kind of the outlet pass into the midfield. You remove the overloads. It's really difficult to do. So tactically, I think they got it spot on. And to your point about giving the goalkeeper the ball and leaving them as the free player, when you're on the ball and you're trying to entice the press and they don't come, it's like the most frustrating thing ever. And you can see the City players are kind of like, a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? They were showing their frustration more than I had seen in a long time.
I think the temptation is to say now, that's how you get a City now. You just happen to play a perfect game of football. And it's not possible. For maybe some teams like Brighton who are built in a way that actually suits... that suited those players because they've been coached by Potter, now the new manager as well, who's fantastic, because they have a squad capable of doing that. You can't just ask any random team to do that next week, because for one, it would likely fall apart at the first sign of anxiety, and it would fall apart if it didn't work for a second, and also you'd be on the end of a route. But to me, Brighton are one of probably the few teams in the Premier League who could do that. So it's not necessarily a major concern for City. It's more just an incredibly impressive Brighton performance, and they were fantastic. Unlucky probably to lose in the end. But I find it really interesting actually how they played, and I liked that City rise to that challenge, and Pep finding a new way to get through an unorthodox problem.
Yeah, I agree. I found it a really enjoyable game to sit back and watch.
My first game with my child as well, by the way. I sat in hospital, unfortunately, but still there.
You'll always remember it. Erling Haaland gets 2 goals in the game, the penalty, which was just phenomenal. And then it's like Kevin De Bruyne just goes, "Don't forget about me," and just steps up and just scores, arguably the best goal of the game. Which, considering the first goal that we've just all cooed about and the penalty, which was absolutely sensational. Pep has said recently, Nedum, that Kevin isn't playing to his best, but he's still stepping up and doing things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And to sort of give my own personal opinion on it, it was interesting that it was part of the Ballon d'Or conversation, because the start of last season was probably one of those worst patches that he'd had for City as well. So even though he wasn't at his best, he was still having an impact. And then come the end of the season, he catches fire, and then that's how we remember the whole year. But the fact that he can still contribute, and for City as well, we used to say it when we used to have to listen to people talk about the team from Salford, they just find a way to win games. This is what champions do, blah, blah, blah.
Up there, I like it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? This is just what they do. But for City, they won a game 3-1 in which they were made to feel very, very uncomfortable. But one of the differences is you have a Haaland, you have a De Bruyne, and you have a Bernardo Silva who chipped in with the sort of penalty and the ball to De Bruyne as well. So he might not be at his best, but there've been so many discussions recently about players coming over the hill or whatever. Not saying this is Kevin. There are some people who, where they're coming down the hill, it's a long time before they find anybody, because that's how good they are.
Yeah, they're so far up in the first one.
Yeah, literally.
They're still in the clouds.
So it's not, I'm not saying that's for Kevin, but there are other people who are being mentioned, and no, they're not comparable. Kevin De Bruyne is Kevin De Bruyne.
What does that say about his standard over time and what they expect from him and his own expectations, that he's playing like that? He's banking goals in like that, and he's he's not playing his best football.
That wasn't quite in the top corner, so I guess.
I love it. I'm very much looking forward to him to getting back to his best again. Who knows what we might be seeing then. But thank you for sending in all your WhatsApp questions. We've got absolutely loads coming through. Also, a first one from David MCFC. Lovely, just said he loves watching Matchday Live. Thank you very much, David.
Cheers, David.
We love you watching Matchday Live.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. OK, the first question is from Roger, and he says, what are your first memories related to Man City? So, I guess we'll go to you first, because you are a lifelong Blues. So, what are your first memories of City?
So, my first proper memories, actually, so I was playing for my Sunday League team at that point at AFC Clayton. I don't think they're still going, but I hadn't actually been to a stadium or been to a game yet. But I remember the feeling when we played in the cup final, we won. Then my mum and dad told me that I'd been scouted by City.
Wow.
I was like, you know, you're like buzzing, really excited. Went to a trial, then my first game, putting on the kit and all that stuff, played against Blackpool and scored 5 goals. I was like, okay, relax you.
What happened? Where's that striker instinct gone? What happened?
Listen, I asked myself the same question all the time.
Did you know he scored against Copenhagen?
Anyway, moving on. But yeah, it was that wearing the shirt for the first time and then having a connection to something else, because I'm playing football for Man City, and I might have been 10, but I'm playing football for Man City. And then when I arrive at the stadium as a ball boy and all that stuff, like, you feel that sort of like connection. It's great watching games, but like, I was seeing stuff which other people wouldn't see.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in the same breath, like we were talking about Sean Wright before, like I was a ball boy for him when he was playing in the Youth Cup. Like, those sorts of...
He really is old, isn't he?
Literally older than dirt, my friend. So that, like, I'd say my first memory was finding out I was scouted and then getting the chance to play for the club and then going to my first game. I forget which one it was, but like all of a sudden you feel like you're part of something, and that feeling there, like, it sticks with you forever.
Because you are part of something.
Well, yeah, just can't get any gear, but I'm definitely part of it.
We love you, but not enough to give you gear.
Yeah,
clearly.
It is what it is.
Karen, what's your first memory of City?
Oh, wow. I mean, I remember, obviously, I grew up in the States, and I remember seeing, like, clips and highlights and random things kind of crop up on the TV when football was actually on TV in the States. But it was of, like, Sean Wright Phillips playing, the knee slide from, you know, Dick Off and stuff like that, were some of, like, the first memories. But I think when I first saw them in person, I think it was in 2005, and I was away with England, and we all got tickets to go and watch City play, and that was the first time, like, I'd ever been to a Premier League game.
Do you remember which game it was?
What year were you?
That's the year, that's what I mean. I'm sure.
Oh, is that right?
He was playing,
oh my gosh, I don't know.
Probably.
Probably scored a hat-trick or something.
Yeah.
Hey, mate, I did score a goal for the first 3 years of my career. I thought I was never going to score.
I can't remember who they played.
It was memorable.
At the time,
You didn't stand out.
As long as we didn't have 2 goalkeepers playing outfield.
You don't want to remember a goal with the defender, though, do you? Defender, you shouldn't notice them.
Yeah.
Doing his job, you know.
Well,
That's right, yeah.
Kinda.
That's a great point.
Kind of. But when you do start off as a young defender, you kind of want someone to mention your name at least. Oh, he's doing well. That would be nice instead of, yeah, he's...
I think we were just kind of like overawed by the
unfortunately,
situation at the time, because you know, I mean, for me personally, it was like my first.
You were in the presence of Nedum Onuoha and you didn't realise. You wouldn't have realised.
That makes sense now.
So your first memory, you were playing for England, and it was your first Premier League game. Your first memory was pulling on the kit and playing for City. Sorry, Stephen, I don't know where you could go with this.
Got my first City kit one year. Like, no, for my first game, I remember my first game though. I remember I was sat there watching like Live and Kicking at home or something like that, and my dad just popped out. It was on a Saturday in February in 1994. I remember it specifically because I was never been more excited about anything in my life. I was 8 years old, I think, and it was Man City 2-1 actually against Swindon, and it's crazy because I've worked with so many people who played in that Man City side now, you know, and Kevin Horlock scored for Swindon, an own goal. Rocastle, rest in peace, obviously, he was playing and scored a great goal that day as well. And of course, Jan Helge Fjordtov as well, the ex-player, follows me on Twitter. He scored for them as well. So it's a really small world. And I remember I walked down to the North Stand that day, and the goosebumps, man. I loved the North Stand as a kid. I sat there, and I always used to sit in the front and watch Uwe Rosler warm up, and you know, people like Beagrie and Walsh and so on. And it was formative. It really does. It changes your life, and there's nothing quite like that visceral thrill. And finding out my dad had free tickets that he just popped out to get, and then we got in the car at 2 o'clock, and we were there. And we parked at Wally Range School and walked down from there, and that thrill walking you know, if it's a main road and so on. It's just, it's the best feeling in the world, and I can't wait to do it one day with my little lad, you know, and I can't wait for it. So,
Roger, what a brilliant question. Thank you so much. My first memories are walking up the steps at Main Road, standing at the top for the very first time as a 10-year-old girl, and just going, oh, just thinking it was the most
it's the best, isn't it? It's the best.
incredible thing I had ever seen. And we drew 3-3 that day, which kind of set me up my life as a Manchester City fan. So what a brilliant question. Thank you so much, Roger. Keep your questions coming in, everybody, and I will try to get through as many as I can. Now, earlier today, our EDS side were also in action against Borussia Dortmund in their penultimate UEFA Youth League group game. Brian Barry Murphy's side are now through to the last 16 of the UEFA Youth League, and it's the first time since the 17-18 season. Absolutely brilliant. Congratulations to them all. Now, today saw a pulsating 3-3 away draw, another 3-3 away draw at Borussia Dortmund. They've topped Group G and they have a game to spare as well. Absolutely phenomenal. You have to see some of these goals. They're sensational. Will Dixon, Carlos Borges and Nico O'Reilly. Now, we can hear the thoughts of our manager, Brian Barry Murphy.
Brian, that was quite an exciting game there. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it had everything, really. The challenge of losing a goal in the first minute, I think, can be quite hard psychologically. So for the players to come back and play so well in the first half and score some exceptional goals was really pleasing. And the second half, again, was a bit of a roller coaster, very Man City style, we said. And we looked equally as dangerous, but we just we couldn't score any goals in the second half, which was probably down to the opponents and the state of the game. What did you make of losing that early goal? Because we just haven't found our rhythm, had we? And we were 1-0 down. I think it's one of the things in these European games. The intensity is totally different to what we see in our home games in England, and it can just happen. So for me, it was quite interesting for the players to see how they reacted and adapted to it. And we've shown a constant trend of bouncing back in all European games this season when we've gone behind, and it's not something we want to do, obviously, but for the players it's great learning in terms of their careers moving forward. Like you say, the reaction was outstanding, and actually we are slightly disappointed. We're only 3-1 up at half-time. Such was our dominance. I thought some of our play in the first half was breathtaking. I thought our players really stood up to the challenge of the Dortmund lads, who are very intense and aggressive in the home pitch, but we were equally so. I thought some of our football was breathtaking. I thought in the second half the ebb and flow of the game meant that it was more of a challenge, but I was really impressed with our lads in terms of how they managed their emotions and still stuck to the game plan in the face of conceding 2 quick goals. We know about City's quality, but I think in that second half, certainly that final 30 minutes, once they'd got themselves back into it, we showed real character there, didn't we? For the manager, that must be so pleasing to see your players do that. Yeah, because it's not always easy to plan for that, and you're thinking in your mind, no, we were 3-1 up, and then it's 3-3 in a flash, and it's so hard to be able to go again. But our lads were really good, and our players in the forward area of the pitch worked really hard for the team, and that's something that we want to see every game. And once again, the quality of this competition, this really is a great test for your lads, isn't it? Unbelievable. I think for myself and our staff included, the unique challenge it poses is something that I never even thought about before I came to the club, and to expose our players to these situations where they have to perform or risk getting knocked out of the competition, which we have done quite a lot in previous years, is brilliant for them to have to overcome, and to show the style they did over the course of the game was hugely satisfying. So we've got a point there that ensures that we top the group, even with a game to spare. I mean, you must be delighted that we've made it through in such comfortable fashion. Amazing of the resilience the players have showed throughout this competition. Like I said, and there's been some, I think previous seasons have almost made a lot of young lads worry about this competition, but to see us play with so much style and so much courage in this competition has been great for me, and I can't wait for the adventure to continue somewhere else after Seville next week, obviously. You've not had a chance to speak to too many of the players yet, but what's their reaction to this going to be? Because this is a competition they really want to do well in, isn't it? I think in the moment, I think they're probably disappointed they didn't win the game, I think, and I wouldn't want to take that away from them, because they felt as if we created more than enough chances to score enough goals, and I think that initial disappointment should obviously go away, and the realisation that we're going to go and play Seville at home next week and try and get even more points in the group, and then obviously go into the knockout stages, which gives us a real edge to the second part of the season after the World Cup concludes. Would you look to mix the team up a little bit for that final group game now that we're safely through, or are you going to stick with largely your 11, do you think? I believe it's such a prestigious competition. I think the players attach so much value to it. I think we have to be really serious in how we prepare for the game, and obviously some players have worked really hard and haven't got enough minutes in this competition, but that's the nature of it. We do a lot of development and a lot of different exposure for our players, but I think in this you have to compete with your teammates to play, and then really compete against the opponents to win, and our players have done that perfectly throughout the course of the group stages, and we'll aim to do that next Wednesday.
Congratulations, Brian, through to the last 16. Well done.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah, that was the thoughts of Brian Barry Murphy, and you can get a full match replay of that incredible 3-3 draw that we had with Dortmund earlier today on City Plus later this evening. Of course, you can get the highlights across all our platforms as well. You need to see some of these goals. They're absolutely brilliant. Now, Premier League 2 action returns at the weekend as City travel to Everton on Saturday. That is a 12 o'clock kickoff. We are currently third in the table after 9 matches, level on points with the second place Crystal Palace and just a point behind leaders Arsenal. So big congratulations to everybody involved there for qualifying through to the next stages of the UEFA Youth League. So it's been a decent couple of days all round. We have had a win against Brighton for the men. We have had that great draw today with qualification for the EDS team. And at the weekend, also, our women's team beat Spurs 3-0. Now, Bunny Shaw got 2 of those 3 goals. She is now the top scorer in the WSL this season. She's played 4, she has scored 5. She also has an assist, a goal every 65 minutes. Now, there is 5 players, including Arsenal's Beth Mead, that trail her currently on 3 goals. So it's been a phenomenal start to the season for Bunny Karen.
Yeah, absolutely. She's been wicked, especially with her head. You know, like that what we saw there was like a great delivery, obviously, from Alex Greenwood. But I think Bunny Shaw has really found her own within the methodology and within the playing style that Gaz Taylor's implemented, because, you know, she's starting to understand the work that needs to be done on both sides of the ball. And I think she's looking a lot more comfortable and confident in her role as well. So, yeah, I've been really, like, so happy to see her. She's worked so hard, finding her own feet kind of in the first half of last season. And yeah, I just love that she's kind of brave enough to put her head on the end of everything. And this team in particular, the like plethora of passes that you get and the crosses, like this is a perfect example of like what she brings to the team, because the touch to kind of post up, to obviously like be that target player and obviously create opportunities like that off the back of it is another dimension that we've not had for a while. So I've really been enjoying watching her play and kind of find where she fits and being able to play to her own strengths and stuff, because she's a phenomenal player.
And she's a fabulous personality.
She's great, yeah,
around.
she's great. I popped into the training ground the other day just to see how everybody was doing, and they're just so like, they're just a fun bunch. You know, everyone looks like they're in a really great place. But then, yeah, she's just a huge personality. And the accent as well is just like, it's so fun to be around Bunny.
Yeah. What I loved from one of those goals from the Spurs game that we just saw is that the Spurs had played it out, the goalkeeper had gone to the defender, and Bunny had been like, no, won it back and then scored.
I wanted to mention that goal because I was watching that on the weekend actually when it was happening, and like there's a feeling at the back when you think you've got everything under control, and then the next thing, like the ball's gone and everything's changed and you can't quite figure out how, because in this moment the defender thinks they know everything that's going on, but then before you know it. And this is a great finish as well. You look at it, it's like 20, 25 yards out right into the bottom corner. But when you have attackers who will work both ways, it really does set the tone, help the team out.
And
sorry, what were you going to say?
It's part of the ethos. It's ingrained in what it is that we want to do on both sides of the ball. So you obviously want to win the ball as high up, you know, in the opposition's third as possible. And that's if they're going to play out and play with that, with such little intent to kind of move the ball quickly, you're going to want to punish them. So I love seeing that from her.
She didn't even look where the pass was going. She made the tackle and she's already turning around, spinning, knowing that she's going to get the ball back.
Yeah, she caught the goalkeeper, you know, like not flat-footed, but wrong-footed.
Yeah.
And, you know, quick snapshot. And there you go. You got to take your opportunities when you get them.
I think we need to thank FIFA as well for this, how Bunny Shaw doing so well. Because I did some work giving the women's team copies of the new FIFA, because our women's team, as all the WSL teams, are in FIFA this year. It's fantastic. And Bunny Shaw was rated a lowly 69 on physicality.
Terrible.
69. She was absolutely fuming when we gave her her stats. She really was, Karen. You know,
I know
can
she
imagine.
Would be. That's why
you
I'm
can
laughing.
imagine.
Yeah.
And she went off, and about 10 minutes later, some of the other players came over, and apparently she was still in the changing rooms really angry about her physicality. 69.
Have a word.
It's ridiculous,
Have
right?
a word.
I think it spurred her on, Nedum, to go, oi, FIFA. change my stats.
Well, the name changes next year, doesn't it? Or have I made that up?
It does.
Oh,
yeah,
I've
they
heard
lost the
about
license,
this.
so don't know what it's called, but yeah.
Just football.
Yeah,
Football.
Football, yeah.
It is in the game, yeah.
Yeah,
Football.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's a game.
To be fair, it's nice to be in a game, though. That is nice.
Yeah.
It's nice as itself.
Yeah.
I've played as myself before. I scored a lot of goals in FIFA as myself.
As
So
yourself?
have I, yeah.
Wow.
Rolling back into the youth days.
Yeah, even going back to like playing
I always put you in my
Football
team,
Manager and stuff like that. Listen, if you're not playing yourself, why are you playing the game?
You were always in that team because you were pacey, so you had to be in the team, you know. You had to be.
I've got a good roly-poly.
It's true, though. I mean, it was fast.
Yeah, just get me in there, captain. Guarantee success.
So we've got Bunny Shaw, top goal scorer in the WSL currently, and of course we also have Erling Haaland, top goal scorer in the Premier League as well.
Is it 17 goals?
I think so.
Yeah,
No, I think so.
22 already, by the way.
17 and 11 games, is that right?
22.
It's
October.
If he had 17 at the end of the season, you'd be like, oh, it's a good season.
It is a good
You know what I mean?
season.
It's a very solid opening season, yet still here we are
wild.
in October.
6 goals he is off the Golden Boot winner from last year, and there's still 27 games to play.
I think he'll be all right. He should be all right.
He's got 22 already. He's already got a good season. You said at the end of the season, Haaland got 22 goals. You'd be like, he had an all right season.
Yeah.
He's got already 22 goals in all competitions.
October.
Well, he's doing what he's been asked to do anyway, isn't he? Yeah.
And Bunny Shaw's been asked what she's, doing it as well. And I just love the fact that we've got the top goal scorer in both the WSL and the Premier League, Stephen. It just shows you, the philosophy of the club throughout our team.
Yeah, it's just talent. You give the right players the chance to prosper like that, they'll take it. And this quality. It's not just it isn't just of those players. It's the creative players around them as well, and they're aware how to maximise their ability. And I love it because football fundamentally is about goals. Yeah. It is not to play down defenders.
No. I was literally going to agree with you. I was literally going to agree with you. For as much as I like clean sheets, I'd rather have goal scorers. Like I much prefer that.
Isn't it? It's everything.
It's just a nice feeling where no matter how the game's going, you're like, I think we'll be all right here.
And it's why I put them in my FPL team. It works for me.
Nah,
you can try it.
Wrong show, mate. Wrong show. We don't need to get to that.
Yeah.
Are you still top of our league?
Do you know what? I've not looked for the past 2 weeks, so I had a lot going on.
Yeah.
But maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. We'll see.
Stephen has been the top of our FPL league, our Matchday Live FPL.
Not that I ever mention it,
Start of the season. You see him regularly tweeting about it, I'm sure. But you know what? I've been doing really well these last few weeks. I'm coming for you.
Catching.
I'm coming for him. Of course, you can watch our FPL show. It's presented by FG. It's on every month. You can get it across the platforms. It's wonderful, as always. And don't forget, our women's team play tomorrow night at the Academy Stadium. Kick-off is 7 o'clock. Get your tickets for that. And you can still get some tickets for the Manchester Derby that takes place in December as well. That is being played at the Etihad Stadium. So we've said a happy birthday so far to Sean Wright-Phillips this evening. We'd also like to say a big happy birthday to Ilkay Gundogan. He turned 32 years old yesterday.
He's a baby.
Yeah, when became manager, to have the pleasure, the joy, the fortune to have people like Ilkay. So I will never forget him, how he has done, not for the team, for him, for me personally, for the team. He's an incredible football player, always grounded. So he's accepting the highlights for the other people. He's smart and have everything. It's a pleasure. So that's why one of the reasons why is he was voted for his mates as a captain. Otherwise, could not be here. And we are incredibly happy to the decision we made to have him, because except the first years, and unfortunately he had an ACL injury. From the second season, when we start to win the titles, he has been involved, a real part of our group. So always is there to help, playing, no playing, whatever, with a positive way. And like I said, it's a joy as a manager to have this type of players and human beings with you.
Happy birthday to our captain, Ilkay Gundogan, who's been so instrumental in the 4 Premier Leagues that, of course, we've won under Pep. He's also got some cracking records now as well. He's scored 38 goals in the Premier League, which is more than any other German player. He's won 11 trophies at City, which is a record for a German player playing in England. And, of course, tonight he returns to his former club, Borussia Dortmund. How instrumental, how important has he been to City since he joined Nedum?
So I think it was after the first year, some people had the doubts about him, and I remember saying to one of my friends, like, no, he's really, really good, and some friends was like, well, what does he do? And now, like, I don't have many good takes, but that one has just grown beautifully across the years. I think it was it a couple of years ago when he was top scorer as well, you know, and for Pep Guardiola to be saying that about you, given the players that he's seen, you know, both in terms of on the field and off the field, like, so you couldn't pay someone enough money on Cameo to get someone to say something like that, you know, that's...
Especially Pep.
Yeah, exactly, like that. I'm looking at it, I'm like jealous, man. I wish Pep could talk about that. You know, that's basically where I'm coming from. But he's been an incredible player, and as you can see, when everybody's available, he's the captain.
Yeah.
You know, he's the captain of that bunch of players, so that says as much as you probably need to know about how good and important he is.
I think of the quality of the players that we've got and the leaders and the winners, and they chose him as the captain. And we forget as well, he was Pep Guardiola's first ever signing at Manchester City, and it's simply put, he's a world-class footballer. It's that level, and I guess when you've got Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, it can sometimes take the gloss off how good the other midfielders are, because you forget, you presume you can only have 2 world-class midfielders, but we can have 3 in 2 positions, and Ilkay Gundogan is another one of them, and they're all so beautifully distinct in their games. But Gundogan is a great example of what great players do when you need them, because I always think the truly great players are the ones who can adapt to whatever they need to do. You know, and Gundogan he's been the David Silva-esque creative playmaker. He's been a holding midfield in a 14-game winning streak when Fernandinho was out. When we didn't have a striker, he turned into a goal-scoring midfielder, getting close to 20 goals in a season, and now he's the captain of the team as an elder statesman. I mean, that to me is talent, but it's not just talent, it's personality and temperament. And then he won us the league, of course, last year. I mean, everything about it, it's just wonderful, and that isn't what most people can do.
I've got to say, wait, you were making some great points there, but I just phased out watching those clips again.
Yeah.
Because it just takes you to a certain place, and I was like,
once again, it's euphoria.
I was lost.
And Gundogan has done that so many times, and that is what makes people like him so special. He brings those moments.
I think he's got a great mentality, but he does bring that calmness to the game as well. He seems like a very mature head, you know, and that I think that complements the midfield really nicely, but as the rest of the team. And, you know, as Pep made a few great points around what he's like as a leader, you know, he is a good person. He, you know, and I think it's amazing that
matters. It matters.
It does.
It really
of course.
matters.
But how often do you hear managers speaking about the person? Like, you don't hear it very often, and clearly Pep spends a lot of time managing his players in that way. And it's really, really refreshing to hear that that is something that matters so much to him. And, you know, it's about developing the relationships, developing, like, the person, not just, like, the player, making sure that they're sound as well. So, yeah, he's an amazing player. He's obviously contributed so much to the club.
Future Man City manager, I reckon.
Oh, I hope so.
Oh, that's right.
He's doing great. He's doing his coaching badges, and I'm full of goosebumps after just watching that goal again. It's just incredible. So the teams are now in the tunnel. They will be coming out soon. We're about 5-6 minutes away from tonight's game. We'd just love to get some final thoughts from you all. Stephen, how are you feeling about the game? What are you expecting? And give me a score prediction.
Why not make it another 2-1? I'm excited for Alvarez, actually. Alvarez, I think he's not got anything to prove as such, but, you know, a talent as good as his has had to sit on the bench a little bit more than maybe would have liked, but then you can't argue with Haaland, you know. But I think he's going to be really up for this game, and I think it'll play into his hand because he's the kind of person, for example, who would start for Dortmund. He's that kind of player, and I think this is going to be an occasion for him to really step up, and, you know, it's just more Manchester City, so I'm happy.
Absolutely. Karen, what sort of game are you expecting, and what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go with 2-0. I'd like to see Ortega play more, so I'm quite excited to see this. I think he's
back in the keeper for a clean sheet.
Shocker. He's an outstanding he's an outstanding player, so I think, yeah, I'm really excited to see how he gets on. But yeah, I'm excited to see Alvarez as well. I think he's an absolute unit, and he can throw himself around.
To be honest, now, after you and your stats, after you said it can't be 2-1 again, I've got to go for 2-1. So that's my take.
Thank you, Nedum. Much appreciated. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Stephen. We'll all be here at half-time as well, talking about everything that happens in the first 45 minutes. Of course, don't forget, the best place, as always, to get your commentary is on the Manchester City app with the wonderful Alistair Mann. He is going to take you through the next 90 minutes, and hopefully City can win and top the group. We'll see you soon.